Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, this is Dr. Nikhil here, sir.
Yeah, hi Nikhil.
Yeah, hi, sir. Sir, we'll wait for some 2 minutes and then we'll
Yeah,
start, sir. People are just joining.
no problem. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Hey, handsome, don't come here.
I'm just one take my MD.
Even though.
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Sir, I think 36 people have joined, sir, till now. I
Okay.
think more will come.
All right, we'll wait for
Normally,
another.
our attendance.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. Normally, our attendance go till 70, 80 people, sir. And another people, like, they will watch our recordings. We
Yeah, I
record
think
this.
if you have recording, share it, okay? Because I think I forgot to inform my PGs also. Next time I'll inform them. Okay. Huh?
Sir, what, sir?
No, if you have recordings later, you share it because I'll give it to my PGs. I forgot to inform them about this meeting today. My DNB PGs. No, they could have also joined.
Yes, sir. We'll share with you, sir. The
Okay,
video,
fine.
sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
We'll start at 7:05 then.
Okay, sir. No problem, sir. Okay.
Shall we start, Nikhil? Hello?
Yes, sir. We'll start, sir.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. We can see, sir.
Intermittent paced ECGs, no? You can see, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With a red marker, everything is there.
Yeah, we can. Can it be didactic? Can some, if you put questions, can someone answer? Is that possible?
Yes, sir. Normally we have volunteers, sir. So we'll
Okay,
start, sir,
fine.
one by one. I'll tell you, sir.
Okay, fine. Then let me start. Okay.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. So today's presentation will be on interpreting paced ECG. Just the basics. So I'll give you an approach to how to approach a paced ECG. Okay. So we'll start off with this one. I'd want to volunteer for this. If anyone could volunteer. So 65-year-old gentleman underwent single chamber pacemaker for AV block. So what does this ECG tell you? Anyone? Anyone willing to attempt?
Rajesh? Yes, sir. Rajesh, you are there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Can you just...
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, just attempt it.
Yeah, Rajesh, can you say?
This is... yes, sir. Actually, this ECG, 4-channel poly ECG, showing ST elevation, sir, in 2-3 AV. Yes, sir. And there is intermittent loss of capture, sir.
Okay.
The intermittent sinus rhythm is taking over, sir. Actually, alternate paced and normal sinus rhythm is being, sir.
Okay. What is happening here? Why do you think there is loss of capture?
Under sensing.
Yeah.
How many of you for under sensing?
Under sensing.
Okay. So if you know under sensing, then I think my job is done. Anyways, I'll take you through these PowerPoint. Can you switch off your mic? It's interfering. Okay. Yeah. So this one, these were the 4 options: lead fracture, battery depression, sensing problem, or programming error. So good, a couple of them got it right. Under sensing, we'll come back to the ECG later. Okay, so now this one, let's talk about the pacemaker. The basic function of a pacemaker is twofold. Everyone has the concept that pacemaker is used for pacing. That is not exactly true. It has 2 important functions. One is sensing, one is pacing. So, pacemaker always provides a backup stimulation. So, backup stimulation. So, there's only when the intrinsic rhythm fails, the pacemaker should work. It is not that just because you put the patient should be completely on a pacemaker. It is only when the intrinsic rhythm fails, so the pacemaker should work. So for that, to pick up the intrinsic rhythm, the pacemaker should sense the intrinsic rhythm. That is called a sensing. The pacemaker throughout keeps on sensing each and every heartbeat. So if there is intrinsic rhythm, the pacemaker doesn't do anything. It senses the intrinsic rhythm and gets inhibited. In the case the intrinsic rhythm is absent, then the pacemaker recognizes that there is no intrinsic rhythm and gives a pacing. So these 2 are very important functions of the pacemaker, sensing and pacing. Another important thing to remember is the conduction system disease may be intermittent. So you might have a patient with a complete heart block or a sinus node dysfunction. You've put a pacemaker for him, but down the line, his AV conduction might improve intermittently. So on days when he's got good AV conduction, if you take an ECG, you will have intrinsic rhythm. You will not have any pacemaker function at all because the pacemaker is just observing his intrinsic rhythm. On some other days, when he doesn't have intrinsic rhythm, you will find pacemaker spikes in the ECG. So these 2 are very important things before interpreting a paced ECG. So this is a routine pacemaker. So as all of you would know, there are 2 types of system: the single chamber system and a dual chamber system. In single chamber, we implant a single lead in the right ventricle. So this lead serves like sensing the right ventricle and pacing the right ventricle. So a lead senses the chamber in which it is. So if you have a right ventricular lead, it will sense only the right ventricle and not the atria at all. It can't sense the atria. So if there is an intrinsic rhythm in the right ventricle, then it will inhibit. If there is nothing, then it will pace. In a dual chamber pacemaker, you have 2 leads, one which senses the atria and paces the atria, second which senses the atria, ventricle and paces the ventricle. So in this case, if there is an intrinsic atrial beat, so the atrial impulse won't be generated. On the other hand, if there is a sinus node dysfunction and if there's no intrinsic rhythm, then the atrial stimulation will take place. Similarly with the a ventricle. Suppose this atrial impulse reaches the ventricle, then the ventricle lead gets inhibited, so you'll not see a ventricle paced beat. On the other hand, if the atrial impulse doesn't reach the ventricle, that will be recognized by the pacemaker, sensed by the pacemaker, and it will give a backup impulse. So this is how basic pacemaker works. So this is how a lead works. This one fluoroscopy is seen. So when we see a paced ECG, we want the following information. You want to know whether it is single chamber or dual chamber pacing, and possibly mode of pacing, what kind of mode of pacing, whether the pacemaker is functioning properly. Then you can get other information also. One is site of repacing. So you can see where the lead is in the right ventricle, whether you are in the septum. So septum would be slightly here. Whether the lead is in the septum or in the apex, that also can be diagnosed. And diagnosing ischemia, which is a little more difficult in paced ECGs. So as I said, sensing and pacing are two important functions in a pacemaker. So if you go by that concept, if in a patient with a dual chamber pacemaker, you assume a patient you have put a dual chamber pacemaker. If intrinsic atrial activation and AV conduction is present, what will be seen in the ECG? Anyone? So if you put a dual chamber pacemaker, but there is intrinsic atrial and AV conduction, what will you see?
A-sense, V-pace.
A-sense, V-pace.
But AV conduction
is present.
A-sense,
A-sense,
normal,
V-sense. Normal rhythm we will see.
Sinus rhythm.
Only
Yes.
intrinsic activities here.
Exactly. So, see here the patient has got intrinsic atrial activation and AV conduction is also present. So, there's no pacemaker activity seen because both intrinsic are there. So, you'll have atrial sensing and ventricular sensing. In other words, it's called as A-sense, V-sense or AS-VS. Okay. Second combination is, suppose intrinsic atrial activation is absent, but AV conduction is intact. Then what will you get?
A-sense, V-pace.
Atrial
pace.
pace, ventricular sense.
Atrial pace and ventricular sense. Okay.
Sense.
So you'll have atrial pacing and ventricular sensing. Because atrial activation is absent, you will pace the atria. So atrial pacing, but AV conduction is intact. So it will sense the ventricle. Atrial pacing and ventricular sensing. So if you find atrial pacing and ventricular sensing, what is your interpretation? Why this patient has undergone a dual chamber pacemaker?
SA node dysfunction.
Not dysfunction.
Fantastic. So it is requiring only atrial pacing. So obviously he's had a sinus node dysfunction. Third is atrial activation is intact, but no AV conduction. So what will you see here? So you have intrinsic
ASVP.
ASVP. This is the most common thing. So you will have it will sense the atrial event and a timed ventricular event will be there. That timing is called as an AV delay. So that would be varying between 150 to 180 milliseconds. It's programmable. But you will find that there is a P wave because its atrial activation is intact. It will sense in intrinsic atria. Then it will wait for an AV delay to see if there's any AV conduction. If there is AV conduction, then it will sense it also. But suppose there's no AV conduction within the delay, what you program, 150 milliseconds or 180 milliseconds, after that, it gives a paced impulse. So it's a timed event, so atrial timed ventricular event. That's called as atrial sensing and ventricular pacing. So this is seen in which condition? This is seen in which condition? Suppose you find ASVP on
AV nodes block.
AV node conduction.
CHB.
AV
Yes.
node conduction.
In complete heart block. So in complete heart block, the sinus node is absolutely normal. So you will not require a sinus atrial pacing at all. Because sinus node is intrinsic rhythm. So if he's at rest, his sinus rate will be 60. If he's walking, the P wave rate will be under 100. So sinus node is absolutely normal. You just have an AV block. Unfortunately, the sinus P waves are not conducted to the ventricle. So it will sense the atrial event and pace it to the ventricle. So you'll have A-sense and V-pace. Suppose both are absent, atrial activation is absent and AV conduction is absent, then what will you get?
AP, VP.
Yes,
AP, VP.
and VP. You will get atrial paced, ventricular paced event. So this will occur in a patient with the pan conduction disease. If he's got sinus node dysfunction plus AV node dysfunction, there is no intrinsic sinus P wave, so you'll have a sinus paced P wave. And then after the paced P wave, it will wait for a paced AV delay, which is usually longer than the sensed AV delay. And then if there's nothing seen in the ventricle by then, it will start pacing the ventricle. Suppose you have AV conduction which is normal, then it will pace the atria and sense the ventricle. So in a pan conduction disease, you will have atrial pacing and ventricular pacing. This doesn't have to be pan conduction actually. It could be drug induced also. So some of these patients who are on Cordron and all those things will develop sinus bradycardia and sinus node dysfunction. So so in them, even though you've put initial indication maybe a sinus, a complete heart block with paroxysmal AF or something like that, later on they might go on to develop sinus node dysfunction. So if you see AP, VP, your interpretation is both the sinus node and the AV node are dysfunctional. So, so if you know those four things, you can interpret any ECG, paced ECG, properly. So one basic difference when you see an ECG, paced ECG between VVI and DDD is, in VVI, the atrial events are not synced to the ventricle events. So you'll find P waves totally dissociated from the ventricle events. Whereas if the atrial and ventricle events are synced or related to each other, then it's a dual chamber pacing. So, can someone take up this ECG? What you see here?
Yeah, Pragati, can you take up?
Yeah, Nikhil.
Hello, Pragati.
Yeah. Tell me.
So, I don't see any atrial spikes, sir.
Okay.
I could see only ventricular spikes here.
Okay. So what is your impression? So first question is it a single chamber or dual chamber pacemaker? You answer this 5 questions.
It looks like single chamber, sir.
Correct. And what is the
chamber pacemaker?
set rate? Set rate?
Sorry, sir. You're breaking, sir. I could not hear.
What is the set rate?
Rate is around 60, sir.
60. The spacing, spikes.
It is less than 60, actually.
It is around 60 only, 5 beats. So
Around
generally it will be
60.
programmed. Pacemaker will be programmed with 60, sometimes with 55, but usually it's 60. Okay. Third question: which chamber is being paced?
When?
Which chamber is being paced?
Ventricle, sir.
Which ventricle?
Ventricle is being paced.
Which ventricle? Right or
This
left?
is LBB morphology, so right ventricle, sir.
Yeah, so that's another point. Remember, if you have pacing the right ventricle, it will engage the right bundle first, so you'll get a left bundle branch block morphology. Suppose you're pacing the left ventricle, like in CRT, it'll engage the left ventricle first, so and the right bundle later, so you'll get an RBEB morphology. So this is right ventricular pacing. Is it outflow or in this one apex? Can you tell
Outflow,
me?
sir.
How do you know outflow?
Sir, 2-3 AV of positive, sir.
Yes, so that is a differentiation between outflow and apex. Suppose you find 2-3 AVF positive, then the activation is coming from above downwards. It is likely outflow. So in an apex pacing, 2-3 AF will be negative. Another point would be, suppose you get good outflow, you will have R waves in V5, V6, just like a septal pacing, no? You'll have a good R waves in V5, V6, but sometimes if it's too anterior, you might get Q waves also. So that's another thing. Now, last Pragati, you've done so good so far. What is the indication for this patient? Why this patient has undergone a single chamber pacemaker? Huh?
There was no, maybe the atrial impulses were not, maybe the AF, sir, so that the atrial impulses were not tracked to ventricles, or there can be conduction, AV node conduction disease, or like complete heart block.
Let me rephrase it. Is it sinus node dysfunction or complete heart block?
Sinus node.
Sorry, sir.
Is it sinus node dysfunction? Sinus node dysfunction. Why do you say sinus node dysfunction? What is the evidence for sinus node dysfunction here?
Absence of P waves.
Random P waves are there, sir.
Okay.
P waves are there, but they are not conducted to ventricles. So there is AV disturbance also. Maybe complete heart block the patient had.
How many of you for complete heart block? Anyone supporting?
AF with CHB, sir.
Okay, interesting. Then, anyone else?
But there are no fibrillatory.
There are small retrograde P waves are there, sir. May not be complete heart block, sir. Only sinus.
Fantastic. So you can see here, these are retrograde P waves. So you can see this, no? On the downslope, you can see the small P waves, no? Those are retrograde P waves. And you see this retrograde P waves are very, very small. So it's a diseased sinus node. So what's happening is your ventricular paced impulses are coming back to the atria. Okay? So, your atrial, if it has a complete heart block, generally you will find a lot of antegrade P waves at a rate of around 70, 80 and all that. You will find AV dissociation. So you're not seeing antegrade P waves. Instead, you're seeing retrograde P waves. Very small retrograde P waves. And the retrograde P wave rate is driven by the ventricular rate. So, you're not having an atrial impulse. Antegrade atrial impulse is not there. Whatever atrial impulse is seeing is a retrograde impulse. So very likely this patient is having a, sinus node dysfunction. And for that, you have put a single chamber pacemaker with the retrograde P waves. Okay? Clear?
Okay, sir. Sir, one doubt, sir. The thing which you told, sir, R wave in V5, V6 and Q wave, sir. Can you just clarify, sir, once?
No, this one, if you have, a septal pacing, conduction system pacing, you will have like a normal transition. So if you have a good septal pacing, because you're engaging the conduction system early, depending upon whether you engage the conduction system early. So if you're trying to septal pacing, you're trying to engage the conduction system. So you'll have good upright R waves in 2-3 AVF. And sometimes you'll have a transition also, V5, V6. But generally, if you have, this one, apical pacing, 2-3 AVF will be negative, 1 end AVL will be positive. The more septal you go, you will have Q waves in 1 end AVL. Okay, so here, sometimes you will have Q waves in V5, V6 if you're very, very anterior in the septum, not near the conduction system, but very anterior, you might get this Q waves in V5, V6. Okay, but generally what you do is for your, to differentiate between apical pacing and outflow tract pacing, look at 2-3 AVF. If 2-3 AVF is positive, it is outflow tract pacing. If 2-3 AVF is negative, it is apical pacing. Okay, these two things, if you can say, it's more than enough. Okay,
Okay, sir.
so we
Sir,
got.
how
Sir,
to
I had a doubt, sir.
differentiate with this?
Go ahead. How to differentiate?
So how to differentiate VO and VI with the ECG, sir? Mode.
Very good. So that's another thing. Is this sensing well? How do you know whether it's VVI or VO? You don't have any intrinsic events here. You don't have any intrinsic event here. If you see non-sync, it's completely paced. If you have non-sync intrinsic events, then you would suspect it's a VO mode. But here, what is there is intrinsic rhythm is not there. So he's having sinus node dysfunction with a very low escape rate. So that's why you're having mostly B paced. So in this case, you would say that it is sensing well, because it is, you wouldn't say it's different. You say it's VVI. For sure it's sensing well because there's no inappropriate pacing. So I would say this is a VVI mode. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else?
Yes,
yes,
sir. I have a doubt.
sir, why
LBBB morphology, sir.
Why?
Is it LBBB
why?
morphology, sir?
LBB. Yeah. See, you're pacing the right ventricle, right? So if you're pacing the right ventricle, it'll engage the right bundle first and then the left bundle. So because you're engaging the right bundle first and the left bundle later, you'll get a left bundle block morphology. Not exactly typical left bundle branch block, LBB morphology. So suppose you're pacing the left ventricle, it'll engage the left bundle first and the right bundle later. So you'll get an RBEB morphology, type morphology. Okay. So it's just like a VT. If you have a right ventricular VT, you will have LBEB. If you have a left ventricular VT, you will have RBEB. That's all. Okay. Clear?
This QR,
yes, sir.
how to say whether it is LBBB, RBBB, sir? This is not
Based on V1.
V5, V6.
Based on V1. If you have a QS in V1, it is LBEB. If you have an R wave in V1, it is RBEB. Tall R. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, anyone else?
Sir,
why a
sir, in
VVI
this
pacemaker
patient,
is done for a patient of 6 sinus?
Sorry, I did not get you. What?
Sir, why a single chamber VVI mode has been placed for a patient
Yes.
having 6 sinus?
Sometimes it is not right, but sometimes they do it, for cost concerns or something like that. No, or sometimes rarely if it's a dead atrium, we do put. So sometimes you take patient with sinus node dysfunction, you have a dilated atria, very big atria, and you go inside with a dual chamber pacemaker. But wherever you go inside, you will not get good P waves. You will not be able to pace. Wherever you pace, you will not capture. The atria are really big. Dead atrium. So even there's no point in putting an atrial based pacemaker. So sometimes we leave it with a single chamber. But this most likely is a default. Earlier when pacemakers were costly and all those things. So this one they would. But this is 2015 ECG. So at that point when schemes were not covering and all that, so many patients sinus node dysfunction could afford only a single chamber pacemaker, and you would put a single chamber pacemaker. It's not physiological pacing, but unfortunately true. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Sir, even in
okay, in a
elderly
patient with,
patients where rate responsiveness is,
One at a time, please.
yeah. So where rate responsiveness is not required, you can give VVI mode, sir. Elderly patients, like.
Now, when deciding on a pacemaker, that's a different topic. You have to see two things. Why you are putting, whether you can put a VVI pacemaker with sinus node dysfunction. When you're putting a pacemaker, 3 things need to be considered. Why you're putting a pacemaker? Second is patient's physiological status. And third, the need for AV synchrony. Okay. So suppose you're putting a pacemaker for a syncope. Suppose a patient elderly patient has come with a syncope. He's come with recurrent loss of consciousness. No matter what the condition, AV node or sinus node dysfunction. And if he's really elderly, 80, 84 or something like that, and his only effort is going to the bathroom and staying at home, not active. But your indication for putting a pacemaker in him is to prevent a syncope, because you don't want a syncope and a fall. In which case, even if it's an AV block, you're justified in putting a single chamber pacemaker, because all that you need is the prevention of syncope. And once you put a single chamber pacemaker, his syncope will go off. But if you have a young patient who's healthy, who's having AV block, and who's got good effort level, if you put a single chamber pacemaker, you lose AV synchrony. And in such cases, he'll not lose consciousness, but he'll have effort intolerance. So suppose a patient comes with effort intolerance and bradycardia. So, bradycardia patients can present with 3 symptoms. 1, pre-syncope, syncope, and 3rd, effort intolerance. Many of the complete heart blocks and sinus node dysfunctions come with effort intolerance. And that effort intolerance is because of low heart rate and loss of AV synchrony. In sinus node dysfunction is because of low heart rate. In AV node disease, because of loss of AV synchrony. When there is an effort problem, you have to restore the rhythm to physiologically normal. So it's always better to put a dual chamber synchronized pacing, or else his breathlessness won't come down. But if the symptom is syncope, if it's an elderly, even if it's a complete heart block or a sinus node dysfunction, if you have to address only syncope, you can put a single chamber pacemaker. Nothing really wrong in that. Okay, but as long as possible, try to restore physiological pacing. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
so basically the difference between VO and VVI, like intrinsic beat will be present in VO mode. That's what you tell, sir.
No. If there is evidence of inappropriate sensing, you can say it is VO. I'll come to that later. Okay. Suppose on a tracing you find that there is evidence of inappropriate sensing. There's an intrinsic beat. Despite of that, it is pacing. Then you say it's VO. But when it is sensing adequate, in this patient it's sensing well. So there is no intrinsic. That's why it's pacing. So if there was an intrinsic, we should have sensed it. So very likely this is a VVI mode. Okay. So from the ECG, you will come to know whether it's single or dual, what is the rate fixed, whether it's apex or outflow, whether it's working well, whether it's sensing and pacing well. So much of information you've got from a single ECG. Agreed? Yes.
Sir, can you explain like apical and septal pacing, like where it will be, Q waves will be?
Q waves are not very important, man. See, it is like this, in this ECG, R waves, forget about the Q waves. Just, Q waves are dependent, very, very anterior in the septum. If you go, you might get a Q waves. That's a different thing, but just concentrate on 2-3 AVFs. See, whenever you get 2-3 AVF upright, it is likely, to be septal pacing. The activation is from above downwards. If 2-3 AF is negative, it is likely to be apical pacing. When it's coming from below upwards. In apical pacing, your lead is in the right ventricle apex. So, if I have to say, so, if it's in the apex, when you're pacing, your activation is going from below upwards. So your 2-3 AF will be negative. On the other hand, if you're putting your lead here in the septum, the activation is from above downwards. So 2-3 AF will be upright. So just remember that thing, okay? That is more than enough. Okay, so come to this 65-year-old patient post pacemaker. What do you think this is? Anyone?
ASVS, sir.
AS?
Yes.
Okay,
VS.
Anyone else?
Or maybe small pacing spike, sir.
Intrinsic rhythm, sir.
Sir, one is
I can't hear.
intrinsic apex. Another one could be bundle of this pacing. This bundle pacing.
That's another important thing. See what you think. The spikes. This ECG I put to inform about the spike. So in you have again 2 types of pacing programmings. One is called as a unipolar pacing. Another is called as a bipolar pacing. So if I have to go back, sorry for this. So in unipolar pacemaker, you are pacing at the tip. So your circuit is formed by the tip and the can. So your sensing spikes and pacing spikes will be huge because this is the circuit. In bipolar, it is between the tip and the ring electrodes. Okay, so sometimes even if it's a bipolar lead, we'll program it in unipolar fashion. But most often now it's a bipolar lead and we program it in bipolar fashion. So in bipolar fashion, the circuit is just over here. The impulse given is a very small impulse. So you will not sometimes see a spike. So most often you will see a spike. This is likely to be a unipolar spike. But a bipolar spike is much smaller. So here, this one I wanted to put because you can see a small spike. So this is a very small spike. So sometimes again, spike again will depend upon your filter settings. You have to see your filter settings also. So the frequency of the spike is a very high frequency. So if your low pass filter is not very high, you will not see the spike. Generally, you need your low pass filter to be set at around 100 to 150. So sometimes if your low pass filter is only above 40, it will minimize the amplitude of the spike, and you might not see a spike so well. So but you should you should be cautious about these things. So in here, you can clearly see that in this lead, you can clearly see a spike here. Second thing, what I wanted to bring to your notice is the narrowness. So this is what I'm saying. See, in apical pacing, the QRS will be very wide because you're far away from the conduction system. In septal pacing, the QRS will be narrower. It will be like LBD because you're trying to engage the conduction system very early. In this case, it is almost like a narrow QRS, absolutely normal QRS. This is because I'm engaging the His bundle. So here, we have engaged the His bundle directly. So when you're pacing the His bundle directly, so you'll get a very narrow QRS. Okay, so this is a physiological pacing, absolutely physiological pacing. So in future you'll see a lot of these things. So you can see a spike here when you see His bundle pacing and all those things. When you're engaging exactly on the bundle branch, so in the conduction system, you will get a normal QRS only. Okay, so that is what this ECG is about. Okay, so this I've already told you about unipolar and bipolar spikes. So now we'll go to.
Sir, is there atrial pacing also? Is there atrial pacing also, sir? Is there atrial pacing also?
No, it's an atrial sensing.
Previous ECG, sir. Only atrial sensing. Only
atrial sensing, ventricular pacing. Okay.
Ventricular pacing. Yes.
Sir, one more thing. Sir, we don't have time constraint, sir. We can clear the doubts, sir, and we can. Yes. Sir,
you don't have time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is our like a class only, sir. We don't have. So this conducted by us. Okay. Yes, sir.
So you have it down proper?
Yes, sir. So unipolar, you mean to say the impulse will be at the apex and the QRS will be wide, sir? That's what you.
No.
Okay.
No, the unipolar or bipolar, this is decides the stimulus. Stimulus. Okay. So the spike, not the QRS. Okay. So in unipolar spacing, the spike will be big, not the QRS. The spike.
Not the QRS. That's all.
The spike.
Okay.
The QRS depends upon where your lead. If your lead is in the apex, you will have a wide QRS. If your lead is in the septum, you might have a narrow QRS, like here, no?
Okay.
So here you might have a slightly narrow QRS. See, generally, if you're in the apex, you will have nearly 160, 200 milliseconds. But if you're exactly in the His bundle, you will have an absolutely narrow QRS. Okay. So the stimulus artifact that will be decided by unipolar or bipolar. So in the unipolar, the wide fixed circuit. So some unipolar is given when the amplitude of the R picked up is very small. So if you increase the sensing circuit, then it will pick up even small R waves. Because it's a huge sensing window. Whereas bipolar is only between these two, so it can pick up only loco-regional things. Okay.
Oh, okay. So basically, sir, advantage of bipolar is like it can pick up like the wide range of.
Unipolar will pick up wide range. Why unipolar? Because it's a huge circuit. Bipolar is only this one. See, the advantage is it will save you current. No, you're giving only from the tip to ring. Okay, in bipolar. Right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Can we go to this ECG? Yeah.
Yes, sir. One more last thing. That the bottom bar is there, no, sir? Sir, can you just press the hide, sir?
Hide this one?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So anyone wants to take up this ECG? Anyone? What is the mode?
The A-sensed V-paced, sir.
So VVI, sir.
Who is going to take this?
There is a rate hysteresis. There is A-sensed V-paced, sir. There is a rate hysteresis there.
Why are you saying A-sensed? Is this a single chamber or dual chamber pacemaker?
Single chamber.
Huh?
Single chamber.
Single chamber, sir. Sorry.
See, I told you the differentiation between single chamber and dual chamber is in a dual chamber pacemaker, the atrial events are synced to the ventricular events. So here, if you see, the atrial events are not synced. Here you have an atrial event, you don't have a ventricular event. Here you have an atrial event, you have a ventricular event, but the delay is too huge. So if you compare this, you have an atrial event and then you have a ventricular event, but the delay is not consistent. So this is unlikely to be, this looks like the atrial events are dissociated from the ventricular events. So this is, if you have a dual chamber pacemaker, the atrial events are always synced to the ventricular events. You'll have A and V simultaneously together. Okay. So here the atrial events are independent of the ventricular event. So this is a single chamber pacemaker. Is that point clear to all of you? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I solved your first confusion. So it's a single chamber pacemaker. Go ahead. Tell me what else do you see?
It's a single chamber pacemaker, VVA mode, underlying rhythm is complete heart block, RV pacing, and most likely it is the apical RV apex pacing.
Fantastic. What else? Rate?
The rate is around 3560, sir.
Yes. So you got the point that he said. Single chamber pacemaker. So it's a VVI pacing, right ventricular pacing, outflow tract, apical pacing, rate at around 60 per minute. It is single chamber because the P waves are not related to the QRS. So it's likely you're pacing only one ventricle and you're pacing the right ventricle. You're pacing the apex because 2-3 AF is negative, one AVL is positive. This is what I'm saying. So you'll have one AVL positive. If you go more septally, you'll have Q waves in one end AVL. Okay. So then, this one, the rate is around 60. Is it sensing well? So it is pacing well. Okay. It is pacing well because every time it produces a spike, there's a local capture. This is pacing. Okay. So every time it produces a spike is generated by the battery. So, I understand in this point, the spike is there, is generated by the battery. The battery gives an impulse. That is the spike. Then it is the function of the lead to give a capture. So, so every time there's a spike, there's a capture. That means this is pacing well. Is it sensing well? Is it sensing well?
Yes, sir.
How do you know?
Because it is pacing well, sir.
There is no intrinsic R wave to sense. So
yes, exactly. So there is no intrinsic R waves. That's why it's pacing all the time. So generally, you cannot. You would say that this is sensing well because there is no intrinsic event. Suppose you see an intrinsic event, and despite that, it is pacing on that intrinsic event. Then it is not sensing well. So in this case, this is likely it is sensing and pacing well. And you're not having intrinsic event because this is a complete heart block. So this patient has a complete heart block for which you have put a single chamber pacemaker. Is this ECG clear to everyone?
Sir,
Yes,
can you please repeat about the sensing, sir?
Sensing, see, pacemaker has two functions. Whenever you see whether it is pacing well and sensing well. So pacing well, you see that first you see whether the rate is adequate. Second, every spike is followed by a capture. So, the impulse delivered is producing a local capture. That is a QRS complex. So here, obviously, it is pacing well. Sensing well, you see whether there is any inappropriate pacing. So, whether there is any intrinsic event. And despite the intrinsic event, the pacemaker is not recognizing the intrinsic event. So when you see such situation, you can say that the pacemaker is not sensing well. Unfortunately, here, there is no intrinsic event because this patient has a complete heart block. That's why, you don't see any sensed beats. So, you cannot comment that this is not sensing at all, not sensing well. You would rather say that this is sensing well. There are no intrinsic events in this patient. Okay, that's all. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
So how to differentiate from VVB mode, VDD mode, sir?
Sorry?
And what will be the indications VDD?
Yeah, VDD it's a single pass lead. Again, it is just a mode. In VDD, what you do is you sense the atria. You can't pace the atria. Okay, so only differentiation between DDD and VDD is in VDD, you can only sense the atria. It's a dual chamber mode. It's not a single chamber mode. So in VDD, you will have an AS and VP. You put VDD in complete heart block, wherein your atria is good. I told you earlier, in complete heart blocks, your atrial rhythm will be completely normal. Your sinus rate will be completely normal. When you're at rest, your heart rate, your sinus rate, intrinsic P wave rate will be 60. When you walk, your P wave will go to 100 because your sinus node is absolutely normal in complete heart block. In such cases, you know that you will not require an atrial-based pacing because the sinus node is normal. So, atrial-based pacing would be a waste. So, there was an earlier form of pacemaker called as VDD pacemaker, wherein there you could only sense the atria. And whenever you sense the atria, you can pace the ventricle. So it will be a synchronous mode. It will be a dual chamber mode. You're sensing the atria and pacing the ventricles. But unfortunately, you can't pace the atria. But you don't require atrial pacing in a complete heart block. Most of the time you don't require. So VDD mode is justified in a patient with a complete heart block who's got financial problems. You can't afford a proper DDD. So VDD would turn out to be a little cheaper, 20,000 to 30,000 cheaper. So earlier we would go for VDD mode. Okay, VDD pacemaker, but right now that is gone because dual chamber pacemakers have become really cheap. So in most patients with even if sinus node dysfunction, we put a dual chamber pacemaker. But the bottom line is, in a VDD pacemaker, it is still a dual chamber pacemaker. You will still have, because it's a dual chamber pacemaker, you will still have atrial synchronized ventricular pacing, ASVP. You will always have ASVP. You will never have an APVP because it can't pace you can't pace the atria in a VDD mode. Okay, VDD mode, you're only sensing the atria, not pacing the atria. Okay, is that clear?
So there would be AV
Yes.
conduction in
Sorry?
So in VDD there would be AV conduction, no sir?
Yes, absolutely. It's a dual chamber pacemaker, no?
Yes.
VDD mode, you are sensing the atria. If you're sensing the atria, it's a dual chamber pacemaker. There are leads, single pass leads, but we'll not talk about it. Okay, which can still sense the atria, but you'll have a single lead. Okay, but those are obsolete. We don't use it much anymore. Okay, we'll not talk. But remember, physiologically it works as a dual chamber pacemaker, VDD. Okay. All right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
one more. In exams, normally they will keep us like this spotter, sir. If they tell us to describe a pacemaker ECG, sir, what do you think, sir? How should be the sequence and how should we describe, sir?
Just now, how you describe in the same way you can describe. So in this, if I see this ECG, I'll say it's a single chamber pacemaker. You know, so RV pacing set up around 60. Set at around 60 per minute, pacing the RV apex, and the indication is probably complete heart block. Sensing and pacing well. Finished. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone?
Here, if the PR interval would be constant, then it could be VDD pacemaker also, no sir?
Yes. Yes. Okay. What is here? What is this ECG? Anyone?
Atrial pacing and ventricular sensing, sir.
Fantastic. So go ahead. Tell me. What else do you see?
It's atrial pacing and ventricular sensing mode with heart rate of around 60, sir. And intrinsic QRS was there.
Okay.
ST depressions and T-wave inversions in V2 to V4, sir.
Okay. Then?
Maybe indication might be for sick sinus disease.
Fantastic. See, you got all the things right.
With normal AV conductions.
Fantastic. Superb. So, you know, atrial pacing, I hope everyone has got this point. It's atrial pacing, ventricular sensing. So you have a sinus node dysfunction with a normal intrinsic AV conduction. So AV node is normal in this patient. The intrinsic QRS is abnormal. Obviously, you have huge LVH-like thing. You know this one, and you have some Q waves in one end AVL, maybe an HCM, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This T waves de-inversions, you know, in a pacemaker ECG is not very, very significant, because suppose this patient was having an intrinsic AV node conduction till yesterday. If he was pacing the AV node, and now today his intrinsic AV node conduction is improved, you might have some repolarization changes. You might have some T inversions. They're not very, very important. Okay. So, but otherwise, you're not wrong if you could say that this is probably an hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, probably a lateral type HCM. You know, because of the Q waves in one end AVL and T inversions. Okay. All right. Fine.
Yes, sir. This is pacing at the septal, sir.
You can't. No, you can't justify, because you're not having ventricular pacing at all. No, in this
pacing
ECG.
at all. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Unless you see a paced event, how will you say where it is?
Yes. Sorry, sir. Yes.
You cannot say that. You cannot comment on pacing site unless you see a paced ventricular event. Here, you're not seeing a paced ventricular event, so you really do not know whether this is pacing the ventricle septum or the apex. You only can say that it is sensing well. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Another important thing is in a dual chamber pacemaker, when the indication is a sinus node dysfunction, your atrial rate is driven by the pacing rate. Okay. So suppose this patient, you have set the pacemaker at 60 per minute, your heart rate will be 60. Okay. Because he's got sinus node dysfunction, your atrial rhythm will be based on how many times you program the atrial rate. So if it is 60, it will be 60. If it is 70, it will be 70. You can put rate responsive pacemakers, which will program at the set rate at rest, but on exertion, the heart rate based on the lung impedance and all those things, it can increase to around 80, 90. But in a patient with an AV node disease, like, I'll show it later, the heart rate is decided by the atrial rate. Okay. So if in a patient with an AV block, suppose you put a dual chamber pacemaker, you will see that the atrial, the heart rate will be 80, 90, 100, 110. Because in an AV block, the heart rate is driven by the intrinsic atrial rate. If the intrinsic atrial rate is good, 80, 90, 100, you will have good heart rate. Okay. Did you get this point? Hello?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
No,
sir.
sir. Can you explain one more?
Yeah. See, in a pacemaker, sometimes if you see pacemaker, patients on follow-up, a pacemaker patient on follow-up, their heart rate will be around 90, 100. Have you seen that? You take an ECG, the heart rate is around 90, 100 and all that in a follow-up patient. And you'll be wondering, you have set this pacemaker at 60. Why is the heart rate going at around 100? This is the bradycardia. You have set the pacemaker, you put a pacemaker for this patient. You set the rate at around 60 or 70. Why is the patient's heart rate 90, 100? Have you got this question anytime?
Yes, sir.
Yes. That is because, no, it's not because the rate response. That is because it depends upon the condition where you put a pacemaker. If you put the pacemaker for a AV node disease, his heart rate is decided not by the pacing rate. It is decided by the intrinsic atrial rate. Get this point? So suppose the intrinsic atrial rate is 90 or 80 or 100, his pacing rate also will be 90, 100, 80, because every intrinsic atrial event will be tracked to the ventricle. So his heart rate will be decided by the intrinsic atrial rate. On the other hand, if you have put the pacemaker for a sinus node dysfunction, because the sinus node is diseased, it will not respond to exertion, it will not respond to anything. So your heart rate will be your set pacing rate. So suppose you set the patient at 70, your heart rate at rest will be 70. If you set it at 60, it will be 60 because he doesn't have intrinsic sinus rhythm. So whatever the pacemaker gives is his intrinsic sinus rhythm. In AV node disease, even though you put a pacemaker, it is driven by the intrinsic atrial rate. Okay? All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'll make that point clear again later. Okay?
Sir, excuse me, sir. So can
Yes.
this be just an AAI mode of pacemaker, sir?
Possible. This can.
The
This
previous one,
still
can
be-
it be just an AAI mode?
Yeah, it can still be an AI mode. It can be the differential diagnosis would be a DDD mode with APVS or an AI mode. Yeah, that is possible. You're not wrong if you say it's an AI mode. Okay.
Yeah, sir, sure. Thank you.
What is this pacemaker? Anyone?
This is APVP patient, sir. APVP patient.
What is it? What is it? Tell me.
Yes, sir. Atrial pacing and
Dual
ventricular pacing,
chamber.
sir.
Yeah.
Dual chamber pacing
Go ahead. One of you tell me completely.
with a heart rate of around 60,
It's a
sir.
dual chamber pacemaker.
Dual
It's a
chamber
dual
pacemaker.
chamber pacemaker.
Yeah.
A paced, V paced. Mostly,
Okay.
actually, the ventricular is in the RV apex, and
Okay.
it's most likely the indication for this pacemaker is a combined degenerative disorder, both sick sinus as well as conduction block.
Fantastic. So, you've got all these points. It's a dual chamber pacemaker. It is atrial pacing, ventricular pacing. The RV lead is in the apex. And, the indication would be a pan-condition system disease because it is pacing the atrium as well as the ventricle. Okay. And the rate set is around 60 per minute. Okay. So, you get so much of information from this one ECG. All right. Okay. What about here? Anyone? Hello?
A-Sense V-Pace pacemaker, a dual
Okay.
chamber, because the AV synchron is there, and
Okay.
it is in the RV apex since a 2-3 AVF is negative. Rate
Okay.
is around 65, 70.
Exactly. So you got all these things right. So see, the thing is, this is a sense V-pace. This is a dual chamber pacemaker because see, this is how you see. In a dual chamber pacemaker, every atrial event is synchronized to the ventricular event. So every atrial beat is synchronized to the ventricular beat. So because there is AV synchrony, surely this patient has a dual chamber pacemaker, but is requiring only ventricular pacing because he's got a complete heart block. So atrial activation is normal. He doesn't require atrial pacing. He requires only atrial sensing and ventricular pacing. And the RV lead is in the apex. Now, this is what I was trying to say. So now this fellow's heart rate is around 65 per minute. So his pacemaker will show 67 per minute. Suppose this patient has got a heart rate of around sinus rate of around 90. You will have a pacing rate of around 90. So in a patient with a complete heart block, the pacemaker rate is driven by the intrinsic sinus rate. So suppose this patient has got sinus tachycardia, 110 beats per minute, your pacing will show 110 beats per minute. You'll have all the 110 beats tracked to the ventricle. Okay, this is the point I was trying to make. So, all the atrial impulses will be tracked to the ventricle. So it actually depends, in a complete heart block, the rate depends upon the intrinsic sinus rate. Vis-a-vis, in a sinus node dysfunction, the rate depends upon the pacing rate. So here you have set the pacemaker at 60 per minute. So his heart rate will be 60 per minute unless it's rate responsive and done on exertion. Whereas in a complete heart block, if you take an ECG, the heart rate may be 67, maybe 77, maybe 87, depending upon the intrinsic sinus rate. Okay, did you get this point?
Here there is no need of rate responsive pacemaker.
Sorry?
Here there is no need of rate responsive pacemakers, sir.
Absolutely true. So when the patient has got intrinsic sinus rhythm, why you need a rate responsive pacemaker? Because his sinus node is going to behave normally. When he exerts, his heart rate will go to 110, 120. When he doesn't exert, his heart rate will be 60. So you give a rate responsive pacemaker only when you're putting for a sinus node disease. Because in a sinus node disease, the heart rate won't increase during exertion. So you will set a pacemaker at 60 per minute. But in a sinus node disease, if you don't use a rate responsive pacemaker, at rest his heart rate will be 60. But when he exerts, his heart rate will be again 60, which will be inefficient for him. So in sinus node disease patients, you require a rate responsive pacemaker so that during exertion, his basic heart rate increases based on the level of exertion. So based on several parameters, piezoelectric effect and that movement and impedance, it will decide on a rate which is required for that patient. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes. But nowadays, sir, most of the...
What will be the upper rate limit for atrial tracking, sir?
That is another good point. So, I'm glad you brought that point. So, every pacemaker has got an upper rate limit. So, generally, it is based on the Wenckebach period. We keep it around 130, 140. Why is it important is, suppose your heart rate goes to 130, 140, 130, 120, every atrial impulse is conducted to the ventricle. But if the atrial impulse goes beyond that, if it goes to 150, 160, you do not want all those impulses to be conducted to the ventricle, then you'll have rapid ventricular stimulation. So you set an upper rate limit. So you say that only till 120, 130, all the atrial impulse will be conducted. Beyond that, it will start to Wenckebach, or there's something called as a TARP period, where it will go into sudden 2:1 block. So that's why you're, on a pacemaker patient, sometimes they'll ask you, can I do a TMT? So you should tell them you do a TMT, but make sure your heart rate doesn't go beyond 120 beats per minute. Because if his heart rate goes beyond 120 beats per minute, all the atrial impulses won't be conducted to the ventricle and it suddenly become breathless on a TMT. It will start Wenckebaching or it will go into 2:1. So it will go into 60 beats per minute. So you always tell a pacemaker patient who asks you whether he can do a TMT or go for an exercise, you say, do a graded exercise, make sure your heart rate remains around 100, 110, because most pacemakers and most upper rate limit is minimum set at 120, 130. It's programmable parameters. Most often we set at 120 to 130 beats per minute. The reason for upper rate limit is, our upper tracking rate is called as UTR. Upper tracking rate is because, suppose this patient who you put a dual chamber pacemaker develops an atrial arrhythmia, and his heart rate goes to 200 beats per minute. You do not want all that 200 beats per minute conducted to the ventricle, because if it's a dual chamber pacemaker, everything will be conducted. So in case of in such cases, it won't. There are two protective mechanisms. One is an upper tracking rate. Second is called as a mode switch. Whenever it recognizes an atrial arrhythmia, the atrial rate is very fast, it switches to a single chamber mode. Okay, so these two are protective mechanisms to prevent tracking an inappropriate atrial arrhythmia. Okay, fine. Yes. What is this ECG? Is it working well? Anyone?
ASVS.
ASVS. So, here you have intrinsic atrial activation, intrinsic ventricular activation. So, there's an ASVS. So, this could be either a single chamber pacemaker or a dual chamber pacemaker. But because it's got intrinsic activation, it is just sensing. Here you can say it's sensing very well. You can't comment on pacing because you don't see any pacing beats. But definitely it is sensing very, very well. Okay? Okay, now come to the difficult ones. What's happening here? Anyone?
Under sensing, sir.
Under sensing.
Under sensing. What about pacing?
Pace.
Failure to capture.
Failure
Maybe
to?
there is a pacing complex.
Loss of capture.
Loss of capture, then? What is happening here?
Refractory period.
What?
The first complex is paced complex.
They are falling in refractory period, sir. This capture bit, sir, this spike is falling in refractory period, so that's why it is not capturing.
Fantastic. Can you explain further?
Sir, actually, up to T wave, there is absolute refractory period. If the spike falls on that, it will not be captured, sir. So in the second bit, it is capturing well, sir, the spike. So
Yes, very, very good, man. Very, very good. So did you get the point? So as I told you, pacemaker has two functions, capture and sensing, or pacing and sensing. You can see this beat, there is a spike, there is a capture. So here it's capturing well. So then after 60, there's another spike. Unfortunately, you see the spike is falling on the QRS. So now the spike is falling at a time where the ventricle is refractory. So when there is an intrinsic QRS from here till the end of the T wave, this is a refractory period of the ventricle. There's already an intrinsic activation of the ventricle. So anything you stimulate on this period is not going to capture the ventricle because it's refractory. So this spike is falling on the refractory period. That's why this spike is not capturing anything. Then after 60 beats per minute, again you have another spike which is falling on the QRS, end of the QRS, again in the refractory period, not capturing. Again it's falling on the QRS, not capturing. Falling on the T wave, not capturing. T wave, not capturing. T wave, not capturing. So when it's falling on the QRS of the T waves, it is not capturing. But when it's falling outside the QRS, it is capturing. So when the ventricles are not refractory, a pacing spike is capturing. So here, this is not a pacing problem. So whenever the ventricles are not refractory, it is capturing well. But when the ventricles are refractory, how can it capture? So the pacing is absolutely normal. The problem is inappropriate pacing. It is not sensing an intrinsic beat. So here there's an intrinsic beat. Here there's an intrinsic beat. When there's an intrinsic beat, you don't require pacing. This is inappropriate pacing. So this is a sensing problem. It is not seeing this beat. It is not recognizing this QRS and pacing. So this here, the pacing is normal. Sensing is a problem. There's a failure in recognizing intrinsic QRS. See, here already there's an intrinsic QRS. You don't need a pacing impulse. So this is an inappropriate sensing with normal pacing. Got this point? Got this point or not?
VOO pacing also, sir?
Yes, fantastic. So, the differential diagnosis here would be whether you have programmed this pacemaker to a VOO mode. When you program this pacemaker to a VOO mode, you're only pacing the ventricle. You're not sensing the ventricle. Your sensing is switched off. You do this programming when the patient is undergoing some surgical procedure wherein extrinsic EMI can interfere with the sensing of the pacemaker. So that time sometimes we program it into a non-synchronous mode. It completely switches off sensing at that point of time. It only does pacing. So that is called as a VOO mode. This is a VOO programming. So that's why when in a VOO programming, your only intention is to pace the ventricle. Your intention is not to sense the ventricle at all. So that time you will have, you will have pacing impulses even on the QRS and the T wave. But this is a dangerous mode because you can realize that, suppose it falls on the relative refractory period, it can trigger off an R on T, and you can have you can have an VF. Okay, so VO programming is little dangerous, but you have to understand the concept. Okay, did you understand this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Sir, with this we can say VOO pacing also, no, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Second differential lag.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
During MRI scan also you'll put on VOO.
Yes, correct. So we'll put VO programming in certain situations. One is during surgery to prevent EMI between the cautery. Second is during MRI scan. So these two conditions we program into VO mode, wherein you do not want the electromagnetic interference of a cautery to inhibit the pacemaker. The pacemaker should not recognize the cautery impulses and think an intrinsic beat is there and not pace. So suppose the patient is having a complete heart block and is dependent on a pacemaker. If he recognizes a cautery impulse, those vibrations, and the pacemaker thinks that this is an intrinsic beat and stops to pace, you will not have any pacing. So in such cases, to shut off any electromagnetic interference, you program it into a VOO mode. Okay? All right?
Why
sir,
Sorry? MRI also. Any magnetic field can interfere with the sensing of the pacemaker. So including an MRI. So it can interfere with the sensing and the pacing functions of the pacemaker. So that time during MRI, you just put it into an high output asynchronous mode. Okay. Okay. Now identifying pacemaker problems. There are 4 problems. Okay. Loss of output. Look at this properly. One is loss of output, loss of capture, oversensing, and generate an output. So what you will see is you will not see spikes, or you will see spikes at a very low rate. You have set the pacemaker at 70 beats per minute, but your spike rate is around 45 beats per minute, or 30 beats per minute, or 50 beats per minute. So the spikes are less. That is loss of output. Output is generated by the battery. Remember that. Okay. Second is loss of capture. In loss of capture, you have spikes, but there are no QRS complexes. Loss of capture will typically, in loss of output, your generator is failing. It doesn't generate the spikes. In loss of capture, your generator may or may not be there. You can have a normal generator also, but imagine this lead comes out. So or it is not touching it, intermittently touching it. So the spikes will be there. But because the lead is not intermittently touching the ventricle myocardium, even though there is a spike, there is no QRS complex. So a loss of capture tells you that this could be a lead problem. If you have both, if you have no spikes and no capture, then very likely it is, battery depletion completely. In oversensing, there is loss of pacing. It senses something, if you have oversensing, it senses something and it stops pacing, so that is oversensing. In undersensing, there's unnecessary pacing, like the previous ECG what you saw, wherein you don't require pacing, where there's an intrinsic beat, still you have pacing. That is undersensing. Okay, you get these 4 points correctly. Oversensing typically happens if you have an insulation failure. Each lead has got a conductor. Each lead has got a conductor. That conductor conducts electricity from the battery and delivers it to the tip. Now that conductor is covered by an insulation. What the insulation does is it makes sure that the electricity generated here is exited only through the tip. Otherwise, what will happen is the electricity generated here, if you do not have an insulation, it will come out through the RA and RV and it will require huge output. Okay, so that's why you have an insulation. If you have an insulation failure, impedance will drop and it will sense a lot of impulses. Okay, so we'll not go to all those things. Okay, so what is wrong with this pacemaker? This I think we already did, no? Yeah. What is wrong here? Anyone?
Loss of capture.
Oversensing.
Oversensing, huh? What's happening here?
Loss of capture.
Loss of capture.
Loss of capture.
Loss of capture, no? Then what else? What is the problem for, what is the reason for loss of capture?
Sir, could be battery depletion also.
Yes, correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Because one bit is capturing, sir, and one bit is not capturing.
Yes. Intermittent. Okay, intermittent loss of capture. So you see here, the spikes are falling on. Here there is no QRS at all. So these are not refractory periods. These are periods when the ventricle is completely non-refractory. So these spikes typically should have captured. So in here and all those, and there is no sensing event here. The P wave is far away. So these spikes should have captured. So here you have a spike, but there's no capture. There's definitely loss of capture. Another thing that you see is the spikes are irregular. So, it doesn't happen like this. Normally the spikes are regular. If you pace at 60 per minute, it's at 60. Here the spikes are very, very irregular. This happens, I told you, when it is nearing end of life, or the battery is depleted, your spikes can become slow, rate can reduce and become irregular. So obviously, the spikes are irregular. There's intermittent loss of capture. So sometimes it's capturing, sometimes it's not. That means the output the pacemaker is generating is not enough. Sometimes it is capturing, sometimes it is not capturing. Okay, so this is a complete loss of capture, probably because of battery depletion. Second thing that you see is, this is intrinsic rhythm. So you have an escape rhythm. So this is a complete heart block. Now the pacemaker has failed. So its intrinsic rhythm has come. So this is an intrinsic rhythm. You realize that the intrinsic rhythm is very, very slow. And as I was telling in my earlier talks, complete heart block can have QT prolongation, and that's very dangerous. Suddenly you will have an R1T and sudden cardiac arrest. Okay, that's a very interesting thing to recognize in this ECG. So basically this is loss of capture, probably because of end of life of the pacemaker. Okay. Okay, what's happening here?
Pacemaker mediated tachycardia.
How do you know? What are the differential diagnoses?
Atrial tracking, sir.
Atrial? Tracking?
Yes.
Tracking.
With the conduction.
Yes, very good. Can you explain between pacemaker mediated tachycardia and atrial tachycardia? How do you differentiate?
PMT will have upper rate limit, sir.
Upper rate limit means?
It will not exceed the upper rate limit.
Very good. So here, obviously, see, this is A sense V pace, A sense V pace. Suddenly you have a tachycardia. So this can happen because of two conditions. So obviously this patient has got a complete heart block. So now the heart rate is more than what you have programmed. That can happen, one, if the patient is developing atrial tachycardia, at around 150 beats per minute and all of it is conducted. Second, if it's a pacemaker-mediated tachycardia. Pacemaker-mediated tachycardia typically happens when you have a VA conduction that is sensed by the atria and tracked to the ventricle. And this circuit continues. So every ventricular event retrogradely conducts to the atria that is sensed by the atria and tracked to the ventricle. The next ventricular event again conducts retrogradely to the atria and you have a continuous perpetual tachycardia. But the important thing is a pacemaker-mediated tachycardia, the rate will be near the upper tracking rate because it has to track. The atrial event is sensed and tracked to the ventricle. So the tracking rate will be near the upper tracking rate. So usually pacemaker-mediated tachycardias, the heart rate will be around 130. So like here. So if you see a tachycardia in a pacemaker patient, and if it is regular, and if the heart rate is near 130, then you have to suspect a pacemaker-mediated tachycardia. Okay. The only thing to clear would be to do a programming and see for clear, surely. Okay. See, you can see that VA conduction here very clearly. Sorry? What?
That's what, sir. VA conduction.
Yeah, see here, VA conduction is seen in some of these leads, no? See here, you can see a retrograde P wave here and here. So this could be an atrial tachycardia also, but because the rate is around 130, you would think that this is a PMT, pacemaker-mediated tachycardia, because this VA conduction favors the pacemaker-mediated tachycardia. In atrial tachycardia, you would have Venke backing. So some of these beats would be conducted, some of these beats would not be conducted. So depending upon the rate. But if it is consistently regular and if it's at the upper tracking rate, you have to think about pacemaker-mediated tachycardia. So you would say your differential diagnosis of pacemaker-mediated tachycardia, you would need to confirm with the programming. Okay. So the following reasons can explain a heart rate more than 80 beats per minute in a pacemaker patient. One is tracking of intrinsic sinus rate, atrial tracking of sinus tachycardia or atrial arrhythmias, pacemaker-mediated tachycardia, DDDR or AIR mode. So when in your heart rate responsive pacemakers. Okay. Okay. Now coming back to the original ECG. Can you explain this, anyone? Anyone?
Undersensing, sir.
Yes. Can you explain, madam, why you think it's undersensing?
Because the intrinsic is not being sensed by the pacing complex. That
yes.
Even when intrinsic beat is there, then even the pacemaker is giving the
spikes. Correct. So here you think that these spikes are not being captured, but these spikes are not being captured because it is falling on the refractory period. It's falling on the relative refractory period. That's why it's not being captured. When it is falling outside the T wave, it is being captured. So someone is saying 2:1 conduction earlier, or alternate beating. It's not alternate beating. When it is falling outside the refractory period, it is capturing. So capture is normal. The problem is unnecessary pacing or inappropriate pacing. So even when you don't require pacing, here there's an intrinsic beat, you're having a pacing. So obviously this is undersensing with normal pacemaker captured. So again, the differential diagnosis would be VO mode. So this patient is the same patient. I've programmed it into different modes just for teaching purpose. So this is VO mode to show undersensing. Okay. Okay. So what is the abnormality here?
Sir, but there is AV tracking. I mean,
where?
How can it be VO mode, sir?
Where is the AV tracking, madam?
Constant PR is there.
No, that is constant PR interval in the intrinsic beat, no?
Intrinsic
beat. That's not. It's not in the paced beat. No, paced beat is here. No, so there's no P wave here. Okay. So there's a single chamber pacemaker and there's no AV tracking. Okay. Okay. What's happening here?
Oversensing.
Oversensing.
Why do you say oversensing?
Sir, there are certain artifacts on the ECG, and the pacemaker might see it as a impulse, and that's why pacemaker may sense it like a intrinsic beat, and that's why it's not pacing. So there is a pause there.
What is that artifact?
oversensing the myopotentials
Why myopotentials?
or maybe this is atrial flutter or something, sir.
Yeah, this is a fibrillation.
Fibrillation.
This is a fibrillation. See, baseline fibrillation. It is sensing the atrial events. So here you have a pacing spike and you have a capture. So capture is no problem. The next pacing spike was supposed to come here at the rate of around 60 per minute. Unfortunately, at this point, there is no pacing spike. So if there's no pacing spike, it can mean two things. Either the battery is depleted or it is sensing something else. So battery doesn't look depleted because here you have regular pacing beats. So most likely it is sensing something else. And what is it sensing? It is sensing an atrial event. It is sensing atrial fibrillation is there. So in atrial fibrillation, sometimes you can have big P waves. So it's probably sensing an atrial fibrillation and thinking it's a ventricular event and stopping. That is the danger of oversensing. In a patient who is dependent, if you sense this oversensing event could be an atrial event, could be a myopotential, could be EMI, anything. So in a dependent patient, if you have oversensing, you will have loss of pacing. So you'll have loss of capture, loss of pacing spike at all. So that is dangerous. Okay. So another interesting thing you see is these spikes are very, very large. So this patient has been programmed to a unipolar mode. So I told you in a unipolar mode, the circuit is huge. So it can sense a lot of unnecessary things. It can sense, because it is the circuit is between the can and the tip. It can sense atrial events, it can sense myopotential, etc. So in this patient, you would rather program it to a bipolar mode and reduce the sensitivity so that you prevent this oversensing. Okay, is that clear?
Sir, can we
Yes,
call
sir.
it as a crosstalk, sir?
Similar to crosstalk. Okay. Similar to that. Okay. Yes. All right. Okay. Paced ECG and ischemias, it's a difficult subset. So, generally you will have to use the Garbos's criteria only for LBEB. That is concurrent ST elevation more than 1 mm, ST depression discordant more than 5 mm, and ST depression in V1, V2, V3. So those are the typical things you would use. But generally, it's very difficult to diagnose ischemia in a paced patient. So, you would rather go by regional wall motion abnormality plus or minus enzymes, more so with enzymes, because regional wall motion abnormality also will get some dysynchrony. So with the history, enzymes, you can diagnose ischemia. Sometimes you have frank ST elevation in leads, in lateral leads, or if you have ST depression in V1, V2, V3, which was not there earlier, then you can diagnose ischemia. Otherwise, it's the sensitivity and predictive value of ECG in predicting ischemia and pacemaker patients is very low. You would go with other evidences. Okay. All right. If you have any other questions, we'll take it.
Sir, can
Sir,
you tell the
in atrial tachycardia also the rate limit will be with upper rate limit only, no sir? How to differentiate it from
No,
pacemaker?
atrial tachycardia, it may not be regular, no? So you might not have regular beats. So you might have some conducted beats, some non-conducted beats and all those things. So if you find a regular tachycardia, it could mean this one, PMT. Especially you cannot know for sure. You will know for sure only by doing this one. What's that programming? Okay.
Okay.
Sir, does the initiation differs in PMT and atrial tachycardia, sir?
Hello?
Initiation of... Hello, sir? Sir, does the
I can hear you.
initiation differ in atrial tachycardia and PMT? The initiation of tachycardia?
Nothing. It's difficult to know, man. But generally, if it is occurring with an ectopic and retrograde P wave, you would rather think of a PMT, because PMT generally occurs after a ventricular ectopic with a retrograde P wave. That P wave is sensed by the atria and conducted to the ventricle. That ventricular impulse again goes retrogradely to the A wave, to the atria, and is again sensed. Okay. So, that's how you would show. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you tell the difference between upper rate limit and when the maximum tracking rate actually works, sir?
Upper rate limit is upper
and
tracking.
MTR.
No, this it is this one tracking rate, no, upper tracking rate, again it's called as upper rate behavior. So it's based on your cycle length and your TARP rate and all those things. Basically the idea for that is, maybe we can do another class on pacemaker programming and cycles and all those things. So that time we'll discuss about it. So basically what it is done is it's a protective mechanism to make sure that unnecessarily atrial impulses in an atrial arrhythmia are not conducted to the ventricle, and at the same time intrinsic atrial impulses are conducted to the ventricle. Those both are programmable parameters. Generally you program it around 130 to 140 beats per minute. Details of all those things, if you want about TARP, MTR, UTR and all that, maybe pacemaker programming, I'm not sure if they ask you in the exam. If you need, we can do it another class, but I think explaining all those things now would be a little difficult. Okay, if you need, you just let me know. We can do another class on pacemaker programming, dual chamber pacemaker cycles and single chamber pacemaker cycles, but that's going to be extensive. Okay, do they ask you all those things in exams?
Sir, this time actually they are kept as a OSCE, like they will be keeping on the spotters like that. So
What do they
all
ask in
topics
spotters?
basically we wanted, sir? Yes, sir.
Okay.
So basically, sir, we wanted 3-4 class, sir. Sir, I'll just tell you, like next class, if you can include us just some basics of pacemaker and followed by troubleshooting in the pacemaker and ICD. That is one thing, sir, and means including pacemaker programming basics only, sir, like not going into deep. The second we wanted to involve is EP basics and followed by tracing, sir, EP tracings like in AVRT, AVNRT, like that.
Okay.
We don't know. They may keep as a spotter, sir.
How much
So
of
these,
EP you
if
all
we can-
know? How much of EP you people know? I mean, are exposed to.
We
Sir,
just know the basic it's that's all.
What do you know?
Yes, sir.
We only just know where the catheters are placed in basic intervals.
So we will be, sir, if we can have in 2 class, one is like EP basics and second class we can have the tracings like that. So that will
No,
be
I think
better.
EP basics and tracings, AP basics and tracings can be same class.
Same,
I mean,
yes, sir. So
we will just do basic tracings, AVNRT and AVRT tracings. I think only those two are being asked. I don't think so they'll ask you later.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir. So part 1,
Do they
part
ask
2
you?
we can
Do they
go
ask you
over.
maneuvers? Do they ask you maneuvers, HSP, RV, entrainment, and all those things? No.
No, sir. I don't think so.
I think they will just ask you basics of AVNRT and AVRT. That 2-3 traces
Yes.
we can put in the same class with EP basics. Okay. So, but
Yes,
one thing
sir.
I want, pacemaker programming, what you want? ICD programming, troubleshooting means what? It's a huge topic. I mean, what do you want in ICD troubleshooting and all those things? What are the questions asked?
So for pacemaker programming, we just need the basic cycles, sir, or that PVARP and the TARP and the back.
All those things are asked, is it?
But if at all they have an ECG with Venke backing or 2:1, we may have to identify and say why it's like that, the maximal tracking rate or something. So probably if we have a basic idea about the pacemaker time cycles, it would be better, sir.
Okay. All right. Then ICD programming, what do you want? ICD
So
troubleshooting.
SVT and VT differentiation, and then
No,
SVT
those I think-
differentiation on what? On
No, those
just
will be in
if at all
ECG.
ICD
Yeah.
chalks are appropriate or not, and how to identify and stuff. Maybe.
all those things they'll ask you. ICD interrogation and all those things. Interrogation of ICD and all they'll ask you, is it?
ICD they may not ask, sir.
Sir, basically they give the ECG, sir. They can give any ECG or any trace. There are 25 OSCE stations are there, sir.
No, do they give you what this one? What that ICD interrogation reports?
No, sir, not that hi-fi, sir. But some basic.
Yes, sir.
they
This
may
is the
ask, sir.
first time, sir.
This will be the first time, so we all don't have
First time,
that
sir.
much idea.
I don't think so. They will ask you ICD interrogation reports. Will they give you ICD interrogation report that programming reports and then say interpret and all those things, or tracings, ICD tracing?
Sir, but they have told that everything will be covered, sir. Even arrhythmias and EP will be covered. They have told, sir. This is the first time we don't have any idea, sir. So which they will give, and there are 25 stations are there, sir. So each carries 8 marks. So don't know.
So we are just anticipating, sir. Like maybe EP.
No, because if you want details of pacemaker programming, I can do it. But there's another, this Dr. Mr. TK Govind is there. I'll contact him. So he is very good to teach you basics, real basics of pacemaker and ICD cycles and all those things. But it will not be a 1 hour lecture. It will be a longer lecture, maybe in multiple parts. If you are ready for it, I can contact him. So he's got ready-made slides and all those things. Very good. He's a company guy, but he'll tell you about basics of pacemaker cycles, everything online. I can request him to do it. So if you need in detail, so real detail. But I really do not know how much is being asked for you all. And interrogation and all, ICD interrogation and all, I think is too much. I can do it, but I think I'm not sure if they'll ask you at this level, for whether they ICD programming, or else ICD programming and interrogation we have to do live. Means I should show you on a programmer, but I don't know how I can show you on a programmer. How is it possible to show you on a programmer ICD programming and all that? Is it possible to show on a programmer live?
Sir, it is possible, sir. What we'll do, one thing, sir, we'll discuss in our group what all we want.
Yeah, just let me know.
Exactly.
Let me know,
according
because
to that.
programming and all, if you have to show live, I can, but I don't know how to show live virtually, this one, to teach you virtually, programming and all. So what to do, and there, while we do a programming, you can decide on each, you can discuss about each parameter. What is the basic rate response, upper tracking rate, MTR, everything can be discussed at time. In slides, if you discuss, I think it's little difficult, but if you still want, I think we can do it. I can ask request Govind. I think he's got slides. Huh? Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
I
EP,
think that will be more if yes, sir. That will be more useful in after passing. I think the programming and all when we put up pacemakers and all, sir. Or like maybe, sir. I think.
Okay,
I'll
just let me know what you want.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes,
next class we will do on. I have got slides on basis of EP and EP tracing, identifying basic EP tracings. Okay, that we will do next class. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that will be a part 1, part 2, sir. Or how many?
One class only. One class only. Okay.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay, sir. Sir, when should I take, sir? Next lecture? What do you think, sir? Next time in weekend only, sir, or because you are a busy man.
Otherwise, after 8 o'clock in the night, if that is okay with you all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You just decide and let me know. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Today, hopefully, you all understood. Yeah. Today, hopefully,
yes.
you all understood. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir. Definitely, sir.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.